Hello everyone and welcome to this new series of live streams called the Coffee Breaks. My name is Vincent Go. I'm Substance 3D technical evangelist at Adobe, and we are here to talk obviously about Substance 3D. So this is a live stream that I should make every other week. So in 14 days you will have a new one with a new content. I think I'm going to do in 2 weeks an introduction to Substance 3D Stager. Not defined yet, but that should be it. So yeah, the content will differ depending of my my mood, the news as well, and also your feedback if you want me to speak about a specific topic, something that you don't understand or whatever it is. Just share with me in the comments or online in the social networks, wherever, and I'll try to see if I can implement it in a future live stream, whether as a full topic or just answering the questions if I don't have the answer yet. So for this week, we are going to focus about something called Adobe Color. So first, let's look at the chat for a second. We have at least one person right now, at least two. I have Imaginery, who is in UK, but she is from Toulouse, France, and Anna, who is my colleague and a friend as well, so located in Germany right now. Hey, Anna. So let's start to share my screen and see a bit more about Adobe Color. So if you don't know Adobe Color, it's a website, a free tool that we provide to anyone, more or less. You just go to the website, and what it allows you to do is to create color palettes. This is something extremely useful in general to get some inspiration, to define your style, etc. And the tool, as you will see, is really well made. So because you can choose the way the colors are combined, and these are recipes which are quite harmonic, let's say. So if I look at this one, for example, analogous, you can see that if you move, you have like a center color that you can choose, and it will try to respect the color wheels and the distance between the color to get something that fits to your need. You have monochromatic if you want something one color but variation of it. You see that it's stuck. Once again, you choose the color. You have in triad, you have like complementary colors, so which are opposite in this. So if you know a bit about color theory, it's really helpful to define your style. And if you don't have any taste like me, this is even more useful. Another cool stuff that you have here is that you can go to extract theme. Oh, by the way, if it's not in your language right now, you can go bottom left and choose the language you want. So let's go back to English, and for example, let's take let me check that. Okay, so let's take, I just drag and drop a picture I made, and you see that by default, it's automatically extracting a color palette. It's based on these rules right now, so I can choose the one I want that fits better, and you can even adjust to something that makes even more sense for you. So for example, if you like to have like a dark purple in this one, you see that you can adapt this, and then you can save the palette in your Adobe account. So to access the website, I don't think it's necessary to have an Adobe account, sorry, but to store it, you have to. And then you have a library here with all your different possible palettes. Also, if you are another in the creation, there is also another cool stuff. If you work in UX, for example, user experience, and you want to make sure to offer the best experience possible, you have like a contrast checker, so which lets you choose not to close color. So if I do something like that and like that, for example, you say, you know what, this is maybe too close. So let's choose something which is closer to the other one, like this one, and go here. It may say at some point, you know what, you have a fade here, fail. So you can make sure that the colors you choose are enough contrast to be visible online, and also for colorblind safe version. So once again, if you want to make sure that what you are creating is accessible and readable to everyone, you have this this palette that will check the color. Here it's fine, but I'm going to try to make something bad if I can. Okay, here you see now I have some conflicts. It tells me that these two colors A and E are too close, so someone who is colorblind won't be able to distinguish them. Just checking that. Okay, I have this. Just going to remove the notification for my watch. So once again, this is a great tool in general to create palette, but if you don't have taste like me and you want to find some inspiration, why? Okay, I will try to find something. You can go to explore and type a theme. For example, I'm living in Barcelona. So if I type Barcelona, it will find some palettes. Some of them are made by us, most of them are provided by the community. And you see that you have tons of palette wherever it is. It can be, for example, if you do something for basketball, you can have this palette. And we also have some people of taste here at Adobe that are always creating some palettes. I'm doing refresh. I don't know why when I'm streaming this doesn't want to load properly sometimes. So here you see by industry you have some palettes, so fashion, graphic design, illustration, UI, UX, etc. So if you are eager to find some inspiration, just go here, find the theme or the industry you want, and you can let you guide it. And also this is something that we keep up to date depending on the latest trends. So what I did with this is, in my case, you can either add them to your library or you can download it as JPEG. So that's what I did. I'm going to show you. Here you see that I selected some of them that we are going to play with today. Something to retain that will be important in this live stream is you see that you are extracting always 5 colors for an Adobe palette, which is fine in most of the case. So I'm going to keep that on the side for now. And let's see what I did. As I'm working with the Substance 3D team, I asked myself, how can we implement this with Substance 3D? Is there ways to do something? And I found last year, at the end of last year, I started to make some tests. I made a tool in Substance 3D Designer to work within Substance 3D Painter. And I was discussing actually with someone who works in fashion, and they are using these palettes already, or other ones, but this Adobe Color, because they are super handy and it allows them to store. But then they have to use them to extract them one by one if they want to use it, for example, in Painter. So I say, okay, what if I can do a tool that will apply these colors onto a 3D model directly in Painter? So it's not exactly directly, but in the easiest way for the user. So I made 3 tools that I already imported here. As you can see, I prepared a bit this. This model of shoes, of sneakers, is from the Great Showcase contest we made last year. You have the link in the presentation of this live stream. So as you see, I already imported some color palettes, the one I showed you. I imported some 3 tools that I made, and I organized a bit my shelf. So how did I do that? You can either try to find it. For example, here I made a tag. I added a tag to the tools I'm making, so it's already filtered. So if you look at here, you see that there is a tag VG Toolbox. And then once you have done this, you have 2 ways. You can create a new mini shelf like this, a sub shelf. That's what I did here. Or you can even save this search for later, and here you see all the search that I've done. So VG Tools, I renamed it VG Tool, Adobe Color Palette, etc. So this is quite handy, something to think about when you are working. Looking at the chat, I say that works for I will stop sometimes. So imaginary, let's share the chat with you guys. So that works for those who has an account, not necessarily a paid account. Exactly. But the good way, oh yes, you just an account, you don't have to pay. You can create an Adobe account freely. So you're right, imaginary. Do palettes have to have a specific file format to work in Painter? They are exported in JPEG, so that's fine. I would say any image file format that is supported by Painter, but the default JPEG one works perfectly. It have to be specific in the library? No, it's really up to you. You will plug it by hand, so at the end it will be you who will make a part of the job. So let's go back here. So how does it work? So here, this is this model I just made. I made it quickly. Here you see that there is different color, different roughness, different normal information, etc. And you see that I already make 3 layers. They are fill layers. I just drag and drop these tools. This one, the Adobe Color 2ID, is the simplest one to develop. So if I activate it, you see that by default it's black. Let's select that and see a bit about why is it black by default, by the way. I'm going to check that after. So this one, how it works is you see that now that I have this in the material here, I can just drag and drop that this way. But I'm going to do Ctrl Z because I prepared it a bit before to save sometimes to show you how it works. And you see that there are different parameters, not that much. There is a color count, and you see that if I change the color count, it changes also the mask zone below. And you have a color source, which lets you switch from Adobe Color palette, these ones, to custom palette that you would define by hand. And finally, depending on the zone, as I say, you can define, you have like some mask color. So I'm going to explain this right now. So the color count is directly linked to the number of color you want to use in your color palette. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, starting from top left and ending at middle right, like we can say, of the image. So if I just select one, it means that just the first color will be used. Right now, there is no color, but you see that here I can add an Adobe Color theme. So if I drag and drop one of these, let's choose, for example, okay, my art director did this one for me. I just drag and drop it here, and you see that it will start filling the model. And how it works is actually, now that I say, okay, I want to use the 3 first color of this model, what I can do is go to the zones here and add directly some colors. So what are these colors from? They are based on what we call the ID map. So if you press B when you're on this view, you go to see the ID map, or you can go here and see in all the mesh map, the one which is selected right now is the ID map. But if you press B multiple times, you can see the different I like to call this information map, because these are maps that you are going to bake when you import a new model that gives Substance 3D Painter information about the model that you can use in filters, for example. In that case, I decided to use this ID map that I made it in Blender, but you can also do it in Painter, for example, and to isolate elements of these shoes. So you see that you have the outsole, the part of this here, the leather, all these parts are separated, which allows me to paint it the way I want. So I'm going to reselect this one. And if I want to go back to material mode, you can either go here at the top, material, or you can press M, like material. So I don't know, there is an issue with the outsole for some reason. Okay, right now it works. Sometimes, I don't know, it's picky, something to check. But you see that really quickly I have this model. There is this that I want also to apply. So let's see. Let's make it the same color as this one. So this is the first color as well. So if you look here, I'm going to add one. You see, I can add a zone like that, and I'm going to pick this one. And now, freezing. Sometimes, yeah, I don't know why I have this bug. I have to do it 2 times. B, check. Is there a second one? Sometimes if there is another one above, it can overwrite it. Okay, this one is rebel. I'll have to find one. Anyway, you get the point. The cool thing with that is now that if I like this one, but let's say it was like the winter collection, if you have a new collection, once your model is ready, let's close that for visibility, you can directly say, you know what, for summer, your art director says he wants something more vibrant, like this one, for example. You just drag and drop, and it will make the job for you. Another thing that I may explain in another live stream is if you prepare your ID maps well and you make like a sort of chart, a color chart, saying, for example, okay, red will be main material, green secondary material, blue will be the zones with the metal, etc., etc., and you do it for each zone. You can imagine making it for multiple objects. You prepare your asset once, you create a smart material, and you can reapply. To create a smart material, you just create a group. You put inside the stuff you want to apply to save as smart material. You give a name, my awesome summer collection, for example. You just right click and you create a smart materials, and it will be added directly to your library, which means that, for example, if I delete that, I just have to drag and drop it, and it would work. And once again, if you respect a graphic chart for the ID map with specific colors for each zone, it would work also in another model, in a completely different model, as long as there is an ID map. Okay, so this one, that's the one we're going to see just after. I made 2 other ones to play a bit, but which are easier to use, but to be honest, there is a node within it which is not yet in Substance Designer, so that's why I won't focus too much. This is a node made by a colleague called Rosalie Martin, who is super clever. But once again, I don't want to take the full credit. I just use a part of her tech to do that. So let's look at this. So once again, I have my shoes, and this time, if I go in ID Magic here, you see that why it doesn't find the ID. That's good. Let's look at that. Okay, I don't know why it didn't find it by default. First time I see that. Okay, let's see if it works. I think I know why. I have a problem with my hard drive, I think. I have external hard drive. Let me check if I go to document. Okay, now it should work. Let's see. So right now for this one, what I can do is just drag and drop the Adobe Color theme, and it works directly. As you can see, you don't have to select the color in the ID map, and that's the cool thing, and that's thanks to what Rosalie developed, which is something that is able to extract directly the main color of a map. So what it does, it creates directly, it looks for 9 up to 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9 color in the ID map. Here in this ID map, there is like something like 9. This one, for some reason, it may be too small, it doesn't detect it. But I can define all these zones. So once again, instead of picking the colors in the ID map, I will focus on first defining the color count I want, and then for each color zone of the ID map, choosing one of the 5 colors of this. So yeah, this one is cool, but let's go for something darker, you know, winter winter collection, something like that, for example. I can say, okay, for this one, I want another color. So you could see, yes, but how do I know which color zone correspond on the model? So I made a small help here, which is display ID number. So if I do true, I have the number. So okay, I know now that this is number 3 here. So number 3, this one, let's go something like that, for example. So once again, this is cool. This part is still rebellious. I have to find why, but not a big deal for the demo. Okay, just reading quickly the chat. The palette total looks, yeah, looks like the recolor feature in Illustrator. I'm not a big expert in Illustrator, so I'm trusting you 100%. Yes, but in Substance 3D Painter. And now what you can do for the last one, which is nice, it's funny, but let's say it's not as useful as the other one. I will explain. So I called it this one VG image image to base color. So what it does, instead of taking an Adobe Color palette, once again, you can take directly an image, like for example this one, the image that I did in Adobe Capture. Well, it will do the same. It will use the Rosalie node first, once to extract the color of the ID map, but second to extract the colors of the image that I will bring. So just taking it here, it asks me what is it. I say, okay, this is just a texture, regular one, and just for this session, please import. And now it's here. You see that I did it yesterday. By the way, I do these live streams in French and Spanish as well. So every 2 other weeks, Tuesday will be in French, Wednesday in Spanish, and Thursday in English. So now that I have this image, I just drag and drop it here. And you see that it extracts some color. So just to show you the image again, I don't know if I have it here. It was this one. So it tried to extract. So it's funny, it's cool. And there is, I also use something that lets you find the best style, the one you prefer. So yeah, it's cool, it's funny, but the problem to me is that it's not precise. It doesn't give you full control on the color you want to extract. So yes, funny, but is that useful? I don't think, not that much, because well, at the end, when you have a color palette, you need precision. So how does it look, all this stuff? So today, as I say, we are going to focus on the Adobe Color to ID tool. So I don't need this. Just closing stuff when I don't need it. So how does it look in Substance 3D Designer? So let's go in this one. So this one is the VG Adobe Color to ID, the one we are going to see and that I'm going to explain in detail. Then you have the VG ID Magic, which is a bit more complex. As you can see, there is lots of nodes. Why? Because there is different zones. We say 10 different zones, I think. So that's why it means 10 different colors. That's why there is so much. And this one as well, which is looks a bit complex. But as I say, I won't spend too much time on this or that. And we are going to go into here. If you have questions, don't hesitate. I'm assuming that you have opened at least Designer at least once. I'll try to explain everything, but if you have any doubt, don't hesitate. So how does it work? So this tool, all this is what control this interface. Adobe Color to ID. Yes, this one. So all this, so we are going to explain everything. If you start here, the first thing we want to do is to extract the color from an Adobe Color. So this is what we call an input node. It's not a bitmap node. There is a bitmap node. Like if I take the image here, for example, in the resources, and I drag and drop it okay, this one here, and I drag and drop it, you see that, oh, okay, I have the image here. But this is a bitmap, but that's not what we want. What we want is an input, not like input color, because it's a color image that we want, which looks empty by default. But why do we want this? Because in Painter, what we want is to have an empty slot here that we can fill with an image. So here you see an image, but this is a temporary image that you can use. So if I take the image and I put it inside it, you will have it, but just for you to be able to work, because if not, you will not be able to see the final results. So this is just for working purpose, but this image won't be included in the tool you export at the end. So let's delete that. Here I made a tool that we're going to see just after, which is VG for Vincent Go _ Adobe Color Extract. So why do I put my initial first letters? It's not because I'm completely egocentric. It's because it's easier for me afterwards to find the node I made myself. So take the habits to make like a prefix. Like to me, it's VG, but if it's a project, for a project, a game project or whatever project, you can put like the name of the project. For example, if you work on a Far Cry 9, for example, you can put FC9 _ blah 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 blah. That really helps finding your own job work. So here, as you see, this node is capable of extracting one color of each. And if you look at this node, you see that you have just one parameter, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you look at this, you see that I double click, it just extracts 1, 2. It's not the same color. I don't know if you can see. 3, 4, 5. So depending on this number, you will extract the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth color of it. So I duplicate it 5 times to get it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And by the way, I'm going to show you directly an optimization stuff. I didn't do it properly on everything, but just to show. Here, as it's a plain color, and I don't need to have like a full size, so I changed the size to 32 by 32 here. Is that sRGB color? I think it's sRGB. I think it's sRGB, if I'm not wrong, because it will be used as a base color, and when you go in a Painter and you plug it as a base color, it will export it this way. To be double checked. Then, so as I say here, for optimization purpose, it's better to put everything here in 32 by 32. By default, if you click on it and you go in the base parameter, you see that it's written as input multiplied by 1. So input is this one. But what I will do is I say, no, I don't want this. I will absolute. I want absolute, and I want to be 32. In that case, I would do for this, all the plain color, these ones as well, can be 32 by 32. So once I have the color extracted, you see that here I have a switch Adobe manual. So here I have the manual color. So if I click on it, you can see that you have like the output color, but you cannot do everything here because I exposed it. When it's blue like that, it means that it exposed at the level of the graph. So this is a parameter that at the end, the final user will be able to use. So here, as I say, this is a switch. So 5 times what it does, all this part, I can reduce that a bit, is it says, okay, do you want to use the Adobe Color or to select the color manually? So if you go, I double click here to show the parameters, and you see that here, let's double click to see the color right now to generate them. And now if I go here in the graph parameters here, I have this switch, and you see that it switches from one to the other. So just a simple switch like that. Here, that's where we are going to generate the different masks. So this is, once again, I should rename it like VG underscore cumulative mask, because this is a custom node as well. What it does, it's able to take the color of the ID map and accumulate it on here. For example, if Painter here, you say, I want 2 zones, and you pick 2 colors, well, that's what it will do here. It will, you can define and say, okay, I want 2 zones, so it can take red and green, for example, and make a mask from it. So once I have my color and I have my masks ready, here, I'm going to do like that, so it generates everything. Here you see that I have the color with the mask and I have the proper color by zone. And all this that you have here, it's controlled by this parameter. How many color do you want in this zone in total? So do you want to use 1 Adobe Color, 2 Adobe Colors, 3, 4, or 5? So here, with a system of switch, I'm just blending 1 or 1 more. So if we look here, for example, and I go to the main graph, like that, you see that if I say, okay, now I want to use 1 color, you see the result that it's added properly. How do I do that? So these are simple blends, and it doesn't even need a mask because it's a different zone. But in the switch color, I have a small function with the parameter which is called color count. So if you look, generally when you read, sometimes you have to go from right to left. So you have a condition here which is if. So the condition is here. So the condition is if color count is greater or equal to 2, return true, and if not, return false. So if you go here, what it means, here it means, okay, if it's greater than 2, return 2, which is this one. If not, return false. So it will, false is something black. So it's not exactly black, but empty. So if it's false, you say, okay, just take this one. If it's true, take this one and this one. And you repeat the same operation. If it's greater than 3 here, you see that if it's greater than 3, true or false, etc. So when you have to do this, generally once you have found the logic, you just say, okay, I'm going to take this, you just Control G to duplicate, you plug it here, etc. And you make a chain depending on what you need. And you go to the parameters and you just update the number. Okay, hope everything is clear so far. If not, just tell me if you are starting to cry secretly behind the screen. No other question at the moment. Okay, so now let's see how it's done here. So VG Adobe Color Extractor. So this is a custom one, as I say. So to enter it inside, you can say open reference, or you can do Control E. So let's do Control E. And here we go. So you say, oh, that's fine, there is not too much nodes. If you are starting with a Substance 3D Designer, that's what you may say. But if you know a bit more Substance 3D Designer, you know that if there is a pixel processor or an FX map, there may be a bit more work to do. So once again, if you look here, the input is the Adobe Color theme. So here I replicate it. Once again, it's an input node. If you want to create an input, here this is input here exists because we created an input there. And if you want an output, generally you do, you need to have one here. So this is an input, this is an output. Now, let's go within the pixel processor. Well, we'll do it after, because I'll explain a bit how I thought the stuff. So I said, okay, I want to make a tool to be able to extract this color. So my first thought said, okay, I can use a transform node simply. So if I do this, transform, and okay, I'm here. So that's easy. I can do this. I just make it big, and I just move like that, and okay, maybe even more. Undo. Okay, I have one color, and now if I duplicate this 4 times, so I select and Control D, Control D, Control D, Control D, I have 5, and this would be easy, no? I can do this. I go to this one, I select this one, I go to this one, just to make sure I double click, I select this color, I go to this, and now this one, and this, I can go and select this one, and well, technically it works. And I was discussing with my colleague Nicolas Vierman. Hey, work question. I was discussing with my colleague Nicolas Vierman, who is in the Substance 3D designer team, and who is like a designer living god. Let's be honest, he may be the best user in the world. And I say, hey, what do you think about that? And say, you know what? It's okay, it works, but it's not really elegant. You can use a pixel processor, because here you are using 5 nodes, and then my idea was to create 5 outputs, so 1 for each color. But he said, yeah, a pixel processor, you could do that and just make a parameter that lets you choose the color. And I say, well, that's true. So we discussed about it. He gave me some tips, and finally I did it. So I did this pixel processor. So the idea of this pixel processor, if you don't know the pixel processor, let me see. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to show you this after. So if you don't know the pixel processor, it's a node which lets you create some logic. So Control E to enter inside for each pixel. So what it does is for each pixel, do this job. So I said, okay, what I want to do in my case, I want to find a way to say, okay, what I want is depending of this parameter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's depending of a parameter which goes from 1 to 5, I want to pick these colors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first thing I had to do is to create a parameter. So I create an integer here. So you just click on plus, you define the type here, and you say the default will be whatever. Actually, 1 is more logical in that case. The minimum will be 1 and the maximum will be 5. And I want to clamp the value because I don't want the user to be able to go beyond or below this value. So I created this. It's called input selection. Fine. Now, when I looked at this image, in that case for the Adobe Color palette, I say, hey, you know what? It really looks like it could fit in a 3x3 grid. So I made a nice image to show you. It's really beautiful. I hope you love the design. I say, okay. So yeah, if you think about this as a 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3 grid, the 5 colors seems to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It seems to work. So I say, okay, let's double check that it's true, that it doesn't go below, but by eyeballing it, it seems to work. But I say, okay, I'm going just to test. So I took a tile sampler and I made a 3x3 grid like this one. And I say, okay, let's use this as a mask with my image. And I say, oh, okay, it works. I have my my zones like that. So how do I convert that into some logic? So as we say, the number we have to start is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's go back to my beautiful image here. So first, generally, when you start from 0. So it was, first thing I had to do is to say, so I'm going to put myself here to the pixel processor. Let's enter inside and let's see the logic. So first thing I have to say is, okay, the user may have 1 to 5, but to me, to work within that, I have to start from 0, and it will be a 0, 1, 2 base. So first thing I said, okay, let's get the integer that I just created. So you just choose the get integer node, and you see in the list that I have the input selection that I created. You just select it. If for some reason you create parameters and you say get integer and you don't see it, you say, oh, there is an issue. Mostly it's because you don't define the time properly. You forgot to define the type here. In the parameter, it's a common error. You create it and you forgot here to say, yes, it is an integer. If you don't do that, it won't be visible. Or sometimes if you are in this view and creating it in another view, it won't refresh directly. So just click on another node and re-click again and it will appear. But yeah, that's a common mistake. So we say we want to go from 1 to 5 to finally 0 to 4. That will help us in the math. So simply I go get integer, I do subtraction to remove 1. So 1 will become 0, etc. And then I will do some division as well. There is a node which is called toFloat, so it will be converted to a decimal, a float. So it will be 0.0 for the first one. So fine. Now how do we do? Because what I want to do is when it's 1, 2, 3. When it's 4, I don't want to be here in this horizontally in X. I want to go back to the line. And so I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have to create a rule. So when it's bigger than 2, it goes to the line in X. So once again, you know a bit about mathematics, I guess. So here we have X and here we have Y. By default in Substance 3D Designer, 0 is here. 1 is here, 1 is here. And we'll see after, because we're in a 3, we say 3 up to 3, it's 1, but we'll tackle this later. So first thing to do is to say, okay, how do we go back to the line? So we are going to use something modulo, which is the rest of a division. And here, as you say, I take the number and I do modulo 3. So why? So I'm going to show you, explain you a bit about that. Here, so I'm using a search engine called u.com to give you the explanation. This is cool. This is based on ChatGPT, I think. It was super great. And I say, okay, ask me how can I help you? I say, okay, could you display the number of the results of the modulo 3? Oh, I made a mistake. Modulo 3 for numbers from 0 to 50. So I was a bit lazy at first. He told me, okay, yes, I'm going to give you the Python code to do it. I said, that's not what I said. Please print the output. Okay, let's do that. So he did this. And as you see, when I do from 0 to 50, it starts 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, and he's still lazy. But the cool thing, it explains you. The output will continue with 0, 1, 2 on each line, depending on the remainder of the division of the number by 3. That's what you have to retain about modulo. It creates like a loop of numbers. So if you choose, for example, 3, it will loop 3 numbers. So 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. If it was 4, it was 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is extremely useful when you want to control something, especially if you have to go back to the beginning after a constant number. So that's what I did here. So now you are sure that whatever the number, let's say you have like 12 colors, it means that, once again, here we start at 0, so it means that it will go 0. Let's see my image, my beautiful image, it's here. So it goes 0, 1, 2, and when you go back to the next number, it will go back to X at the line. So this is solved thanks to the modulo here. So here we have our X coordinates. So modulo 3 go back to the beginning of the line. Awesome. Is it okay for now? You are happy to know how a modulo works and how it can save your life? No, we are good. We have defined. Okay, so for X, I want after 0, 1, 2, I want 3 to go back on the line. But when it's 3, I want also to start from the beginning, but at a new line here. So another quick stuff of math that you can do, you take once again this number and you divide it once again by 3. once again, we have a 3x3 grid in our case, as we see here. So here, when we do a floor value, which means that whatever the decimal you have here, it will be adjusted to the integer below. It will remain a float, but for example, to give you an idea, 1 divided by 3, it's 0.33, so the result of the floor will be 0. If you do 0, it will be 0. If you do 2, it will be 0.66, and on set it will be once again 0. And that's the cool part, which means that for 0, 1, and 2, it will return 0. Then if you do 3, it will be, the result will be 1.0. So the floor will be 1. So it will go to the line, the second line. So if you go back to the image, when we have the value 1, it will give with this system here, it will give the coordinate 0, 0. Here, 1, 0, 2, 0, and then you go back to the line. So we have 0, 1, and 1, 1. Fine. So we are happy with that. But if you are not completely lost right now, and if you are not crying blood, you may say, but Vincent, here you put it in the middle, but 0, 0, in fact, it's here. And here, for 0, 1, and 0, 2, etc. So it's not exactly where you say. And you're right. So you have indeed to make like an offset of 0.5. So when you calculate 0, 0 here, you add half to be in the middle of the square here. And as you are still awake, you would have told me as well, but Vincent also, here we are 0, 1, 2, 3, but in Designer it's we are between 0 and 1. So you are completely right, and that's why we are going to end this with a division by 3 here. So I take all the result and all this grid here, all the math that we did, we are going to divide by 3 to make sure that it goes to this referential 0, 1. Sorry, someone is calling me, and I will say no. That's funny, WhatsApp is so intrusive. I close WhatsApp, yet it tries to call me. But whatever, Jesus will wait. So yeah, so here, finally, we make a division by 3. And okay, now this gives you the coordinate I showed you. So the coordinate of this point, this point, this point, where there is a color. So what we can do is, once you have calculated this, just sample the color at this coordinate. So you just use this color, and that's how you get this red. And depending on the parameters, once again, it would be red, blue, etc. Depending on that. So that's how you build all of this. So I hope it's okay that you get it. So let's go back right now to our stuff. So once again, I created 5 times to get all the color and result. Now, as I say, now let's have a look at this cumulative mask, which lets you control these masks here. So it's quite easy. So Control E to enter in, and you see that I'm using a node that you have by default in Substance 3D Designer, which is called the Color to Mask. So the Color to Mask is straightforward. It lets you choose it lets you create a map depending on the color you choose. So if I take this one, for example, and here I click on red, you see that now it creates a mask based on the red. If I choose the yellow, it works, etc. So you name it. So here, that's what I did. I say, okay, you have this. I made like up to 5 color ID that I want to choose for each zone. And you see that I just exposed the color. So this is the final user that will choose which colors he wants to add. I put one color for the first one and then white to avoid interfering and taking, there is almost never white in an ID map. That's why I choose this one, so that doesn't interfere by default when you activate it. It won't try to overwrite an existing setting. So yeah, I have here nothing because it's white, white, white. That's why there is nothing by default. This will be the user which will define this mask, choosing once again here, making B, you can say, okay, I want this, and making it happen here, for example. And the logic, once you have this mask, once again, we made a parameter here to say how many zones for, how many ID do you want to use for this zone. So in that case, you can see that I remade this kind of cascading stuff where the user, you have some switch, so you blend and you have the same logic. Like if it's 1, for example, if you go in the parameter, you say once again it will ask, okay, if the ID color is more than 2, just take the 2, if not just this one, etc. And I replicate this for each of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So if it's 1, it will be just this. If it's 2, it will be this one plus this one. If it's 3, 1, 2, 3, etc. 1, 2, 3, 4, and finally, I think you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with this one. Yeah. So quite straightforward. It's a bit repetitive to build, but once you have done it once, it's easier. And that's often the case with Substance 3D Designer. You are going to spend some time building some logic. It may take a bit of time at the beginning, but once it's done, it's really useful and it saves you a lot of time. So it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Okay, so I think I made the turn. So once again, here we explain that we have the mask. We have here the cumulative colors depending on the number of Adobe colors we want to use in the final results. Just checking the chat so far, doesn't seem to be any more question. Hope I'm not too low. I don't even know how many people are watching right now. So let's see the parameters and why it's important. So first I want to show you that try to organize your graph like this. It's really important. First, if you have to explain to someone else, if someone else is going to use your graph, and also see if you are working on different projects, if you go back like 3 months later, it will really help you understand what you did. You can be really intelligent in a month and 2 months later looking and say, okay, I don't understand, I don't know how I did that. So let's look at the parameters for this graph. There is, if you look at the preview, so the preview mode is what will be seen by the final user. You see that there is not that much. There is this color count and this color source and these zones, mask zone 1, 2, 3, which are appearing dynamically. Fine. But if you look at the parameters themselves, you see that there is a lot, in fact. So this leads to a rule that you have to retain when you are building a tool or material for someone else. At least there is 2 rules. The first one is to make sure to expose only the parameters which are really useful. Generally, when you make a material or a tool, the temptation is to expose as much things as possible. And the result is not only it's scary for the final user, but sometimes some parameters will interfere with each other, which means that you are going to play and move one, but you will have to adjust the other ones, etc. And it's messy for the final user. So it's better to put less parameters that are extremely useful rather than exposing everything. And also what you can do is to, when you see that, for example, you have a parameter that interferes with another one, just see if you cannot combine them. As you may know, Substance 3D Designer has some logical capabilities. You can go in a parameter like the blend node, take this and expose it as an as an empty function. Here, for example, right now it's broken because there is nothing, but you can say, okay, take this other parameter and use it to as a value to attenuate that, for example. So this is important to say, okay, if I so here I'm going to reset, but if you say, for example, okay, when I move this parameter, I have to lower this value. So maybe you could make sure that it automatically lower this value when you do it, so the user doesn't have to do it. So this is the first rule. Just try to keep just the real necessary parameters. And the second one is also to make sure to display only what is useful at each time. And for this, you have to use the visible if, which are rules that you define in the parameters to decide when parameters are visible. Here, for example, there is two levels of visible if. For example, I have this one, as you see, that will define for that will just show the mask zone when it's necessary. And even between each mask zone, I can define how many do I have. So it means that here I have up to 5 groups that are here. And within this 5 group, I have up to 5 parameters. So 5 multiplied by 5, 25 parameters. That's why you have all these ones. So the first thing I did is I made some group, as you've seen, and the good thing is that are taken in account also in a Substance 3D Painter and in Sampler as well, I guess, and most of the application. Generally, at first they are not, and we send a message and say, hey, the group are not taken in account, and they have to, because if not, it becomes messy for the final user. So to define a group, you just write the name here, so mask zone 1, and once you did it for one parameter, it will be in the list. So you can choose for the other one that are supposed to be in the same group. You make it here. A thing that we don't have yet that would be great is you cannot specify by visible if by group. You really have to do for each parameter. So for mask zone 1 here, we go up to here, it's always visible. So there is no visible if the mask zone 1 is always here and the first parameter is always here, because you need at least a zone and at least a color ID to control. If not, it's useless. But let's go to map zone 2, for example. So map zone 2, you see that you have the identifier, you have the group, and at the beginning, below you have a visible if. It says visible if color input is greater or equal to 2. So it means what it means. If this parameter is greater or equal to 2, then we can see this. If not, it will be hidden. And we have this for each parameters. And you see that for the second one, there is 2 conditions, because not only it has to be visible in the group 2, but it has in the group 2, there is also a parameter that decides how many ID are going to be used. So there is another counter here, which is taken in account. And for these rules, if you are a bit scared, they are not, you say, okay, you see that the naming convention here is a bit precise. You have to put input, then you put these hooks on each side, then you put the identifier of the parameter you want to check in parentheses. So if you are not sure, just over the parameters, and you have the explanation, and you took this. So you write input, my float param, whatever is greater than 0.3. So start from that, and it will work. If not, you will have a warning anyway. And generally the warning says, okay, either I cannot find the parameters or there is something badly named. If I do, for example, here, I think you see, it doesn't like it. Also, just think that it's the identifier, not the label. Here you see, you have ID zone 2. This is what it takes. The identifier is what is used by Substance 3 Designer to call or look for parameters. The label is the human name that will be displayed for the final user. Okay, so I think we are good. Let me check. Is there any question in the chat? Don't hesitate. I don't see any. Just checking. No, so far there is not. Just checking if I forget everything. I don't think so. I think we are good. The good thing is as I'm doing it in French and Spanish the days before, it's like revision for the third day, so I know it quite well. And I went faster. And also in Spanish, it wasn't my native language. Well, English is not my native language either. Okay, so I think we are good. Let me go to the chat. So far, I'm going to wait like a few minutes and see if you guys have any question. If you all, sorry. If you also want to see a theme treated for next time, whatever it is, don't hesitate. As I said, I may do an introduction to Substance 3D Stager because it's one of our newest tools. We have Stager and Modeler, which has been added within the 2 previous years or 2 or 3 previous years. And there is not that much introduction online. My coffee, let me check. I hope my coffee didn't go cold. Actually, there is like not that much right now. I drink it, but honestly, I drank most of it before. But I hope you loved the format. This is something that I want to do regularly. I may do some recap too, especially for this this part, like and the modulo part. I think this is something that can be really useful. I may add also this node directly to Substance 3D community asset. I'm going to show it now, by the way, because this is something that people knew before but don't know right now. Substance 3D community asset. If you know Algorithmic for a long time, we had something before called Substance Share, which is a user-to-user community sharing platform where everyone with an Adobe account can share. Yeah, I can link to the chat, but let's add it now. So right now there is not that much work. Well, there is more than, actually it has grown a bit. There is 1,400 either materials, smart materials, filters, and they are free to use. So if you need some materials, or if you want to share with the community as well, that's a great way to work. Actually, that's almost how I started my experience with Algorithmic. If you look, but we do it right now, it's way cleaner. You even have a web player. I'm not sure it works. Let me check. Let's see together. Yeah, it's half a web player. We have to do a new one. This one, there is no parameter, so it won't do a lot. But the cool thing is, yes, you have the preview. It says where it is compatible. And also, you have your own profile. So, for example, Dinesh Dakal proposed all these materials. So I really like this. It gives a bit more visibility than before to the creator. I really hope at some point we will push even more that. Like, for example, we have Behance, which is some people, if you are in graphic design, you should know, which is like where you can share your stuff, etc. So nice resources, mostly used right now a lot in graphic design, motion design, architecture. All this stuff is that's really huge, but I would love at some point if we're able to create a connection between this and Behance, so you have it somehow linked. It's not one which replaces the other, but you create a profile here and you have it here as well. Anyway, so that was just a random thought. Let's go back here. So there is no other question apparently, so I'd like to thank you for watching this live stream. I really hope Have download. Yeah, I think sorry, Imaginary say have downloadable assets on Behance. I mean, I think it's already the case, but I think it's important to keep both because it's good to have like a material view like this one. I think it makes sense to create some. It's just a quick question of making bridges. Anyway, thank you everyone. If you have ideas like this one, if you want me to treat some topics about Substance 3D Designer, Painter, Sampler, Stager, Modeler, especially Modeler, it will be more the desktop mode because I don't know if I will do like a full live stream with the headset on, especially I'm not a good modeler per se. So, but still, this is an awesome tool. So just tell me, send me an email. You can find me online, either by writing on this comment here or I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn. I am on Mastodon if you are as well. Instagram. So don't hesitate. Thanks, and we see in 14 days. Bye bye.